Well, hey everyone, it's Richard. I want to welcome you back to Stuff We Can Do in Excel. I'm going to cover a topic in this video that may not be everybody's favorite, but we're going to go back to our old statistics, and we're going to talk about standard deviation and how you can use Excel to compute a standard deviation. Also, what are the differences in the kinds of standard deviation functions that are available to you in Excel. So let's go take a look at that. We're going to be using this data here. This data, I've simply got 10 people with their ages, and we're going to look at the standard deviation of this group of ages. We're going to do that using standard deviation. Now, just as a reminder, the standard deviation formula, as you can see, there's two of them I've got here. One of them is for the population, one is for a sample of data. So the first one is going to be for the population. You'll notice that essentially these two are the same. We're going to take the sum, we're going to take all the differences between the measurement and the mean. We're going to square those, we're going to add them up and divide them by a denominator. And the population formula, we're going to divide this by n, which is the number of items in the population. In the sample formula, we're going to subtract 1. The denominator will be n minus 1 instead of n, which means the sample standard deviation, because the denominator is smaller, it's going to make the quotient bigger. That means that the sample standard deviation will always be a little bit larger than the population standard deviation. So in Excel, you've actually got options for both. And the question is, which one would you want to use? And I think a lot depends on your understanding of a population versus a sample. So if you go in and look at the population of the definition for populations and samples, they give you this strange thing, say, well, a population is everything that is possible in the data set, and the sample is a sample of what's possible in the data set. Well, that's really not very useful. In this example, with the 10 observations, is that a sample or a population? Well, a good question to ask yourself is, could I possibly add to this data set? Are there measurements out there? Are there ages of people out there that are not in this data set? And the answer is yes. In that case, this would be a sample of the potential population. And so I would probably want to use the version of the standard deviation formula that utilizes the sample formula, the one to the right, as opposed to the population formula. Now let's go look. There's another way to compute standard deviation in Excel, and that's using the Data Analysis Toolpak. So I'm going to do that because I want to create a reference for us. So I'm going to do the Data Analysis Toolpak, and it's way over here under my Data tab. I've downloaded the Data Analysis Toolpak add-in. When I click on that, I'm going to choose Descriptive Statistics down here, and I'll hit OK. It's going to ask me a couple things. It's going to want to know, first of all, what is my input range? What's the data I'm looking at? In this case, I want to look at this range of data right there. Then I'm going to put my output right up here. I'm going to get rid of that one. And I'm going to put my output in D1. Okay. So I'll put my output in D1. I'm going to put standard. I'll hit OK. So when I do that, I'm going to make that column D a little bit wider, and we'll make column C a little bit narrower so we can fit everything in. And you notice my population sample definitions are still over here on the right. I wanted those there still for reference. And you notice it computed a standard deviation of 10.105. Okay? So, something happened. I didn't compute that right. So let me try that again, because I know there's 10 observations, not 9. So we're going to get rid of that and try that again. So we'll go back in, Data Analysis Toolpak, OK. We're going to do B9, B2 through it should be B1 through B10, not B2. That was where I messed up. And I hit OK. And so now my standard deviation, as you can see, is, well, that's still not right. That is, it's 10.627001. So that's my standard deviation for these 10. And I know that because we've already talked about that in the past. And I know that's the right standard deviation for this sample. Okay, so I want to show you next. I'm going to move this over here and get it out of the way. What would happen if I used the other function? Now, in Excel, the way I'm going to access the functions is I'm going to hit the equal sign. Now let's do the one there's one called standarddev.p and one called standarddev.s. Now, how do I get those? Well, I'm going to go in here, I'm going to hit the equal sign, and then I'm going to go up to the FX button up here on the formula line, hit FX, and it's going to option. I've actually used these before, so they're showing up in my most recently used, but you could search for them. I'm going to hit standard deviation P, and that's why it's going to ask me what it's going to ask me here is what is the range I want to use. Well, the range I want to use is going to be in B1 through B10, and I'm going to ask it to compute that. Now, it tells me down here the form is going to be 10.081663, and that's going to be a problem, right? Because that's not this one. Why are they different? Well, remember, because this is small, Data Analysis Toolpak is assuming that most of the time you're going to be computing a standard deviation based on a sample. So therefore, that's the formula that it's using. It's not using the population standard deviation. It's using the sample standard deviation. How do I know that? Well, if I then go into equals, I go up to fx, and I pick stdev.s, hit OK. It's going to give me, whoops, I got to put the range in there. The range is here. Do that. So I'll do that. I hit OK. And there it is, 10.62071, which is the same as that one up there. Now, the question is, which one would I normally use? I think normally you're going to want to use the standard deviation formula for a sample, not for a population. Okay, this is going to give you a standard deviation that's most commonly used when you compute this. Now, I want to show you something else here. If I go up back into this and I hit equals, and let's say I'm searching for all the possible standard deviation formulas. So I'm going to change this to all, and I'm going to type in stdev. I'm going to get a lot of these, right? I got several of these here. What are these? Well, the first one, this is used for something that was with 2007, Excel 2007. We don't want to use that. We've looked at P and S. What's A? A and the standard dev P here are both for earlier versions of Excel. Okay, so standard deviation PA is also for earlier version, and then the DST. This is the standard deviation based on a sample from selected database entries. So again, those are kind of odd and old. They're still in there, but they're not the versions of standard deviation that we currently use. The ones we're going to choose from are P and .S. Those are the ones you will want to choose from if you're going to compute standard deviation separate from the Data Analysis Toolpak. So hopefully this will help you when you're trying to compute standard deviation in Excel. If you like the video, click the like button below. Subscribe to the channel. We'd love to have you as a subscriber. And ring that little bell and you'll get a notice every time we post a new video. Hope you have a great day. This is Richard. So long.